Welcome to today's episode of The Pursuit of Excellence, the show where we go beyond the surface to dive into what separates the good from the truly great. We dive into mindset, disciplines, and strategies to push past plateaus, master the fundamentals, and redefine success on our terms. Today's guest, I am so excited to have Marlies Ledbetter, divine disruptor, and healing revolutionary, as I would like to say. Marlies Ledbetter doesn't just break barriers, she obliterates them. This powerhouse minister, musician, writer, and healer is rewriting the rules on wellness, blending faith, science, and prophetic insight to guide people into supernatural healing, which I'm very excited to get into today. Armed with certifications in holistic health, medical cannabis advisement, breathwork, sound therapy, and trauma-informed care, she's a national force helping thousands uncover root causes of illness and step into wholeness through God's power and natural medicines. After losing her mother and championing medical freedom legislation, Marlies turned grief into gold, now empowering people nationwide through her writing, speaking, worship nights, and transformative healing. She's living proof that when you align with divine purpose and refuse the world's limitations, you become unstoppable. And is that not the definition of pursuing greatness? So thank you for being here.
That is the best intro I've ever heard. Can I get a copy of that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was sitting here and I was just like,
I need that for my website.
How do I define Marlies, right? And in my brain, you are the modern day Renaissance woman because you've got this amazing corporate background, being a headhunter and just identifying talent, building talent, placing talent, but then also, just pushing past through all of those barriers, all of those plateaus in the corporate world, and then stepping into divine purpose in so many different paths, and then bringing everybody with you, whether they wanted to or if they knew they wanted to or not.
I do tend to drag people with me. I
love it. Well, so welcome to the show. I'm very excited to dive in because your story is so powerful, and you really are a force to be reckoned with. So if you're okay, I'd love to just dive right in.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. So you've mastered multiple disciplines: ministry, music, healing, business strategy. So as I like to just start this show every single time is, what does excellence actually mean to somebody walking in divine purpose versus worldly achievement?
I would say that knowing the root of where your fuel comes from. What is it that throws you out of bed? What are the kind of outcomes that you want to see in people around you, whether they're their client, whether they're your colleague, whether they're a friend? How do you want to show up in the world? And what you would see in someone else that you would want to look up to. I have it printed on my on my thing right here. It says, "Be the leader that truly inspires you every day." So who would I look up to is who I want to be. And I think that success is a moving target. I think that excellence is a moving target. I love the 4 agreements, and it always says, the 4 tenets, the 4th one being do your best, but your best changes all the time. And so when you're in a trauma situation going through grief, your best is going to be different versus when you're on fire and you've taken all your supplements and you're in good health and you have a good plan, that excellence is going to look different. I know that I've shifted what excellence and success looks for me through the years. And right now I'm in a season of slowing down. My daughter's graduating. I'm thinking about what are the next steps for me? And it really is to go global. It's to reach more people. It's to minister to people in the marketplace, which means people that wouldn't show up to church, people that maybe have religious trauma, people who have deep-seated emotional issues. And I think that every time I see someone shift and go, I never saw it that way, and I never knew that I could heal, those are the things that I want to hear. And to me, that is success. That's excellence. Being able to dive deep. And then showcase someone a life that they didn't possibly imagine. That's really where it's at for me.
I love that. Every single person I talk to, they wrestle with the term excellence. And so I like how you've segmented that into, each season has a different level of excellence and each day has a different level of excellence. So that's incredible.
We got to give ourselves grace, right? Like I used to be hardcore, when I was a headhunter, I'm like, results, 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 results. And I ended up burning myself out because I always wanted to be achieving the best that I ever did. And that wasn't necessarily fair to my body.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I was looking through all my journals. I tend to do like a end of year recap around what is it that I achieved, the after action review, and it's the burnout that happens every single season, every single year, where it's just you're in go mode because you set these levels of expectation for yourself, but then you never reworked the actual pattern, right? You never reworked the program in order to make sure that you're able to deliver what you said you were going to do. So I mean,
I think that's why it's important to have like your master goal and then have like those micro goals that get you to the main goal so that you can always be measuring it. Like I always tell people, find your goal, what is your outcome, and then back into it. So what are the main things that you have to figure out, and then what are the like daily practices to do those 5 tenets that reach your final goal. That way when you see those tenets being reached and your goal doesn't necessarily get reached, you're not going into burnout, right? Like you may not have met the master goal, but you've met your micro goal, or you've changed yourself over the time, and that in itself is a goal that was mastered.
Yeah.
So I think we need more emotional, physical, spiritual goals versus just business. Like I think that more people need to go follow those 4 pillars, which is, business, emotional, physical, spiritual, and what are those goals? Because if you reach one of them, then a lot of them will fall into place anyways. And most people ignore the emotional and the spiritual, which is what I thrive in.
Yeah. No, that's so important. I love that you've created a platform where you get to actually define that for people and support people on that growth journey through multiple different disciplines as well. So it's, I find that have you ever done your human design before?
Yes.
Okay. So as soon as I did my human design, it absolutely vectored how I actually go to market, so to speak. So how I define where I spend my time and my joy. So I love that you've stepped into this embodiment of the divine purpose. So I would love for you to actually break that down, because a lot of who's watching are top performers, they're executives, they're trying to figure out how to reach a new level of greatness. And I would love for you to break down how you serve your people, your audience.
I think the biggest thing is meeting them where they're at first. Seeing what got them to, because my job is to help people out of suffering. Like I do a lot of coaching and mindset work, but most of the time it's because someone is stuck or they're suffering. And so I want to meet them where they're at, understand what it feels like to be them, and to give them a safe space. Safety and vulnerability is something that's taught very, very young, before the age of 7. So it's not something that's like cognitively available. Like we don't remember what safety and vulnerability and trust feels like as a child. We just don't have memory of that. And so the body takes hold of it, and it's something that grows with us. So when people go, well, I don't remember my age 3. Well, your body does. And so your body's going to react to it as a natural like evolution. And if you don't end up learning safety and trust and vulnerability, then you're going to constantly put up walls, or you're going to constantly be a victim, or you're going to constantly suffer. And you always see like there are several different types of people, and there's people that always choose to be a victor. And I think that that's because I was given a place to be safe and vulnerable, but then I also found outlets to express myself through music, through performance-based things. And so I found my own innate drive through being able to release the energy that I had trapped, give myself a place that I felt I was seen. And a lot of kids don't get that, right? And so many people are like, well, my kid's not going to remember this because he was younger than 5 when all of the trauma happened. But he is. He or she is going to remember those things. And so creating that foundation of safety and vulnerability, building trust, which takes time, and letting them know that they're seen. And that like really just sets the stage. Then we start talking to them about the outcomes they want to see right out of the gate. I'm not going to be like a therapist and talk about all your issues. The past is in the past. And so I tell people, we are not a past repeater. So we're not going to go and talk about all the things and all the people that hurt you. They have been done and over. So I want to work through what is the outcomes of what you want to feel. And then also, are there things that you're holding on to that do not serve any human being, like bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness, shame, guilt, which is internalized. And so we are uncovering those, like what we call low vibrational, but in scripture, what we also say, like the power of the enemy. So those things are not of God, and they're also not high vibration. So we want to move people into outcomes that would create gratitude and joy. And that looks different for everyone. My gratitude and joy is a moving target as well. So baking sourdough today might be a place that I find gratitude and joy. Tomorrow might be like basking in the sun and reading a great book that puts me out of my mind. So we try to like envelop what that looks like. We build it with them together. We do a lot of vision work, and then we go through subconscious releases. And all of what we talk through is to get them into a deeply emotional state so that we start accessing the subconscious versus always like memories and cognitive. Like the frontal mind and the heart do lie, and they protect us, and that's their job. But we have to get past that protection layer. So I'm trying to break down their walls and get to the root of really what's making them not feel excellent. I like my website says, live better, feel better, vibe better, do better. We're always striving for better. And that better changes. But if you do not trust yourself and you don't feel vulnerable with the practitioner, then we're not going to get anywhere.
Wow.
And trusting yourself too. Like I tell people, do not say you can't heal. Do not say that I live with cancer, or don't define yourself around something that's attached to suffering. Like we don't do that. We see ourselves as healed, and just that mindset alone can shift the way that the body vibrates. Our cellular design in our body's intelligence is so wild. Like I love like neuropsychology and kinesiology and like all of these things, because once you learn how the body feeds itself and runs itself, it's like, if you could just teach people how to feed themselves, how to get energy, like, and not live in a toxic society, which we do, all the things that are coming at us, and just have a good baseline, like we'd have less suffering.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to see people suffer anymore. And that's, I think, living with suffering and helping people out of suffering is like really where the core of all of it is at.
I love it. I'm like, I just want to listen to you talk more. I mean,
Ask me more questions.
Right? It's, it's so powerful. The world, we talk about the world that we live in, and it's this constant state of dis-ease, and then we're consistently like tox, detox, retox. So how is it that you support somebody to go from their very toxic lifestyle and this scarcity mindset and not living in abundance and scared to make a change? How do you shift somebody to acknowledge that pain is in the body and shifting it so that we're not just trying to solve the problem in your mindset?
Yeah, it's baby steps for sure. I used to come right out of the gate and overwhelm everyone. And I'm like, your water's killing you. Your clothes are killing you. Your laundry detergent's killing you. And so now what I do is when people come to me and say like, I have hormonal issues, or I have a fertility problem, or I have this or that, my job is to get to the underlying root. So toxins, trauma, and then obviously like the tenets of your emotions are the 3 T's. So we have to figure out like what you're telling yourself and what do you absorb or allow or make agreement with emotionally. So we start there. And some people don't want to go there yet. So we immediately just go to toxins. Toxins are the easiest thing to switch. So we might switch out laundry detergent, educate them about what's in our water. Like, why do you need filtered water? Why do, if you're lacking minerals, that's a problem. And so I paint them a picture of like all the ways that they could be exposed. And that alone can make someone go, well, now I got to change everything in my life. So I do have like a toxin checklist, and I'm going to be putting out a healthy living guide, which has all the pillars that really start with what are your biggest issues that are definitely causing disease today? The biggest problems, nutrition, obviously your toxin load in your house, what you're wearing, what you're inhaling, like what is the load that your body's carrying. If you take the load out of the way, then we need to work on moving the body into healing mode. And that would be working through your trauma, understanding your emotional load, and then giving people techniques to work through it. So that's why I started doing 9D breath work, because we're able to get into that deep subconscious state. So not the stuff you would talk about in therapy, because that's all conscious thought. We want to get way past that into your belief centers, because if you can change someone's belief about who they are, about what they say they are, and undo all of the things and programmings and agreements that they've made in their past, you've got a fresh human. You've got a new person who is internally driven. They don't even know why. They're like, I don't know I mean, people go to my sessions and they're like, I don't even know what just happened. I cried, I screamed, I shook. And people walk away and they're like, I feel like 10 pounds lighter. I feel like my tension in my neck is gone. I have people that like heal their TMJ right out of the gate. No more migraines. Physical pain goes away. And they're like, wait a second, was that emotional? I'm like, what do you think? It was emotional. You've been carrying this your entire life. Like I let people imagine like, okay, imagine you, as you go through life, you carry a backpack. And you start putting things in your backpack and like, this person said this about me and this was a bad experience. And, you know, I got fired from a job. And so you're filling your backpack. Well, you don't have room in your backpack anymore because you're not emptying it out. You're not expressing your emotions. You're not speaking your mind. You're not going through your stuff. So you start filling up luggage. And we're carrying our luggage. And we got our backpack. We got a side purse. We got some luggage. And now we're filling dumpsters. And we're carrying other people's luggage that we have not worked through, right? So now we're taking on other people's crap. And after, sooner or later, that person is going to have dumpsters full of stuff that needs to be let go of. And if you don't empty it out, it's going to turn into disease on its own. Take all the other stuff away. But if you do not get through all of the trash that you're carrying, that's where disease and disorder come from. And I can almost always uncover an emotional root to a disease or disorder. When someone says autoimmune, I'm like, what happened 2 years ago? Or what happened the year before these physical symptoms started showing up? And they're like, well, my mom died, or I got fired from a job and it created huge economic distress for our family. And I'm like, that's where it's at. How did you feel when that happened? What did you believe about yourself? And so when we uncover that, it really just gets to the root. Every client's different. We're building out a map just for them. So I would love to eventually, and this is in works, to have a global program where people can literally enroll, and they've got a 6-week program where they just literally get online, they watch a video, they do a checklist, they have homework. And I have that built out for clients, but I am looking to like bring it to a global platform. A healthy living guide, and then eventually put out my book that speaks on the discovery of when you go through things that are necessary to grow you as a human being, what does that story look like for you? Maybe the story is still unfolding. And so I help people uncover that because I want them to find their purpose through their pain, because I do believe that almost every single type of pain or trauma that you've gone through can be switched into a gift.
I love that.
And I know that's hard for people to like, there's some things like trafficking and things.
Nobody else can
There's
tell their
some
story.
things that are like hard to position into.
No,
Into
that's
a
incredible.
purpose, but yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. I always like to say it's not my monkey, not my circus. But what you've just described is something so much more like real. Like it's so much more real as far as the amounts of baggage that we're carrying with us and that we're not having difficult conversations around to unload.
Yeah. And pharma, we have a pharma issue, obviously government issue. And I think too many people are just blind to accept all of the information around them. But we have to remember that everything is marketing. And so they're trying to market us and make us consumers forever. And really, eventually I tell people like, my job is to make you free. When you are free, then nothing holds you back. You don't have anybody to rely on. If you can make your own food, if you can have learn how to heal yourself, if you know how to understand your emotional baggage. And then ultimately, obviously, my opportunity to minister about my walk with Jesus and what that looks like for other people. A lot of people come to me and say, I feel attacked and it's something supernatural. And that's a discussion that no practitioner, no medicine, doctor or therapist usually gets into. And so when someone starts uncovering, like, I had a shadow man in my room at night when I was a kid, or I feel like someone whispers things. And so there's this whole supernatural world that we just don't even speak about. We pretend that it's not there. And I think science has really gotten to the point where we've like truly proven that there's something beyond the veil. And some people can see and feel beyond the veil. And what does that look like for them? Is that their emotional burdens something supernatural, or is it something internalized? And that's the other tenet that a lot of people hire me for because they know I'm a Christian. They know that I'm going to align with their faith. Even if they're not a Christian, it doesn't matter, because how they see themselves in the bigger picture of the world, of the universe, is super important also, because that can be also the core of worthiness. And I think people just don't tend to go that far and think that far. But my job is to figure out how much they can take and how overwhelmed they'll feel after I have these conversations with them. So baby steps.
No, I think it's been such a privilege to watch you step into this ministry role that you've, championed, because a lot of people's perspectives on church and religion are very structured, and their relationship with God is very structured in that capacity. So talking about the supernatural and the capacity that you are, I'd love for you to give a little bit more clarity on that, just because.
Sure. So my parents were Catholic. I was raised in a Catholic church, went through communion and all of that. Confirmation, I'm sorry. And then I started becoming a professional singer at the age of 6. So we knew right out of the gate that I had like a very unique gift. And the Catholic Church didn't allow, number one, girls or kids to sing. So I was like, well, I'm going to go audition for another church. And so we had a Methodist church in the area, and I auditioned and I got into the choir, but they were like, you're really good. We're going to put you in the adult choir. And then they started a non-traditional, like, contemporary worship service. And so they plugged me into the band there, and then I started recording albums. And so I've always been drawn to bringing people to a very like emotional, spiritual space in music. And but then I'll say I had some really severe trauma in church camp, in friends groups, a suicide attempt, and then a stay in a mental facility for a good amount of time. Bad marriage, first marriage, and it just on and on it goes. I came back to my faith, and then I left my faith. And I came back to my faith, and I left my faith. And I think it's mainly because I wasn't around people that were full of the Spirit. We'll call it that. Like, you can be a Christian, and the third commandment is do not take the Lord's name in vain. It has nothing to do with GD or saying like Jesus Christ, right? Like or using the name vernacularly in vain. That's not what it means. It means to take on the name of Christ. Like, I am called a Christian. If you're doing that in vain and you're living in resentment, shame, guilt, unforgiveness, you have taken the Lord's name in vain, because as a Christian, we don't hold on to those things. We surrender that to the Lord. That's part of being a Christian. And so I was surrounded around bitter, resentful Christians. And so that was like my, you look to that as your example. And so I'm looking around going like, this is not what I want. This is not the Jesus that I read in the Bible. This is not the experience and like the way that I have felt supernaturally saved. And so when my mom died, which was in 2021, I heard God speak for the first time. Now, I've seen things supernatural. I'm definitely a feeler. I can see beyond the veil. And I know that's a very unique gift, because people are like, what do you see? What do you feel? And it's like, it's complicated. It's really complicated. I sometimes see demons. I see angelic like forces sometimes. But when my mom died, I heard God speak. And it was right after she had taken her last breath. And he said, basically what it felt like was, this had to have happened. And the word was necessary, which is where the book is coming from. And at first, my first reaction was like, what do you mean this was necessary? Like, you took my mom from me. Like, I was very, very angry. And then he reminded me of Proverbs 3:5-6, which is my favorite verse. It became my favorite verse in 7th grade at church camp when I got saved. Because I was a Catholic, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. So in 7th grade, Proverbs 3:5-6 like became my favorite, which is trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And he reminded me, and he was like, you have to really meditate on this verse, because I'm going to be walking you through the hardest moments of your life. And I had really gotten into the New Age pretty heavy. I mean, you and I, we knew each other when I was like really exploring the supernatural, because the church wasn't really giving that part of the Bible. And I was searching for something different. So when I experienced that, it was like the core of who I was in my relationship was completely shifted. It was rocked. And I couldn't explain to anybody what God was putting me through. And the next year, I was a totally different person. And all of a sudden, all these people that were deliverance ministers, which means like they literally touch people and they heal. And that's through the power of Jesus, right? Like it's not them, but they were chosen for that. Or casting out demons, or just leading people to uncover their heart's truth, which is made by God. And so all of a sudden I'm surrounding around all these people going like, where were these all throughout my whole life? Like, why didn't I have this, Lord? And he goes, because you weren't ready to see it. You weren't humble enough to receive it. And my mom's death was probably the greatest gift that he ever gave me. And I know that's a wild thing to say, and it still shocks me when I say it, but her dying brought me back to God in a way that I didn't think was possible. I see things, I feel things now that are so on fire, but I'm not scared. So when I see it, God goes, do you see what they're suffering from? And I go, yeah. And so I can visually sometimes see what's attached to them, or emotionally, or I can go and I feel things from their past. And so when that blew apart, I'm thinking to myself, if I can see and feel all of this, God knows what people are suffering from, that they have no definition. They can't put words on it. They can't explain to anyone. Who's going to listen? Who's going to understand? And so I started a Bible study, and I started a Bible study to help women specifically with anxiety and depression, and people that have gone through deep trauma. And it just exploded. And we had so many women from 4 time zones. I had somebody tuning in from across overseas, and the feedback was huge. And so God said, okay, now build it. And I'll give you a name. And so then he gave me the crown, which I know, like, we both did pageants, but I always feel like the glory of God we should proudly wear with also being able to be humble. And so I developed the crown and the tenets of the crown, which are the tenets of Jesus. And like, what does it look like to be a Christian and shine the light of God to other people? Because all of us can look at the way of the world and go, well, that, Christianity, blah, blah, blah. But that has nothing to do with Jesus. And it has nothing to do with your spiritual walk individually. So I think that we put too much damage on the way that human beings are faulty, and we don't develop our actual relationship. And so I try to help women, specifically women, discover that relationship, and what does it look like, and what does the word actually say? And let's ask some really hard questions. Let's ask some supernatural questions. And then I want them to understand their authority. Like, I want them to have the confidence to place that crown on their head and say, I am a child of God, and I have the authority of Jesus. And God told me in Genesis that you are the ruler of all the plants and animals on this earth. Why are we giving the enemy any room? So like, we have to take back our authority. And I think that transfers over into your life. Right? You take back your authority, you feel confident about who you are, you confident about who God says you are. And then sometimes that clears all the other stuff away. I've seen people miraculously heal just from receiving their spiritual gifts, and then literally their disease is healed. And they're like, where did this come from? And I go, I can't explain it. Like, I can't, and we never will, but we have to trust that God's doing something incredible. And the miracles that have happened in the past 3 years, demons manifesting in people right in front of me, people witnessing it, going, oh my gosh, is this what's actually going on in your practice? And I'm like, yeah. And we have to know what to do with it. We have to know what to do and walk people through the next steps, because it's a messy world. And we have to take all of our power back. From our government, from big pharma, from all of our, our toxic behaviors, and have self-discipline, walk in faith, and know the truth. And that, to me, equels freedom.
Yeah. Wow. I just preach, woman, preach, because the way that you've
yeah, now I figured out I was a preacher. Who knew that was going to happen?
it was God's plan. So that's it.
He did tell me, like, in a vision, he was like, I gave you a microphone not necessarily to sing, but to preach. And I'm like, oh, but I'm not a preacher. And he goes,
yeah, you are. I mean, it's such a gift that you have to be able to shift mindset, to shift past, to shift souls, to enlighten and inspire people, and that's to shift gears just a little bit, because you're also doing it in a business context, right? You're guiding women and men in the business arena. So I would love, that discipline is such a core principle in just living in purpose and living in the commandments. So I would love to know how it is that you're replicating success for the people that you're mentoring in that capacity as well.
Absolutely. So when I mentor practitioners or other, like in any business strategy, I mean, it started from me being a headhunter, right? Like I look back and I think about, I trained pageant girls. I trained performers. I was a vocal coach, performance coach, and that in tuned built kind of like the foundation of understanding who you are and what you're showing to the world. Did sales coaching. And then as a headhunter, you're a career coach, right? I'm showing you what to wear to an interview, how to respond in an interview, like what kind of personality traits you need to like envelop and all of these things. And so when someone comes to me and says like, I want to be successful, I want to do what you do, or I want to do something similar, I go, okay, well, what are the things that you want to accomplish? Like, let's look at your goals. What do you feel like you're lacking in? And is it organization? Is it that you don't have proper protocols? What kind of systems are you using, right? We have to make sure that we're not overwhelming ourselves especially as solo entrepreneurs, that we don't have all of these things in place. We've got AI now, we've got wonderful technology, we've got all of these things. And so it's not hard to build it, but sometimes people just can't figure out the structure. And so my job is to do a deep dive, kind of like I do with my clients, where we deep dive on like, what are all the things that are keeping you sick? Well, what are the things keeping you from being successful? How do you start your day? And so I help them create a vision. We start with a vision. We go into the subconscious of like, what would it feel like in 5 years if you accomplished all the things that you wanted? What does it look like? What does your day look like? What are every minute? Where are you drinking your coffee? What does it look like? And we set that as the vision, and then we back into it. And I make sure that they understand that if you don't have certain systems in place, then you're going to overwhelm yourself. And that can mean bringing in other people that have technology. I have different coaches that I rely on to help build systems. But for the most part, people are coming to me to kind of do what I do. And so it's also understanding what does your day look like? What can you fit in it? How are you time blocking? Time blocking is like one of the biggest things that was life-changing for me, especially someone with like pretty bad ADHD. Like, I'll be fair. I'm squirreling all the time, but then I'm also like manically focused. Yeah. So, what does your organization look like? Do you have the right tools to motivate you? Are you a visual learner? Are you an audio learner? Are you what helps you? What are the things that you need to prepare yourself? And we build out that plan. So whenever I sit down with someone, I tell them it's usually 3 hours that we're going to do a vision work, goals. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions about your day, how you get organized, how you get motivated, what you need to be successful. And then that could be like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, I don't know. And it also obviously like how much money do you have, because this does take time for me. But I would say, systems, organization, understanding your power, understanding your purpose. If you're not very well defined in the goal, which is your why, right? Like, and your why is emotional. It's not because of my kids, or it's because I want to travel. That's not your why. Your why is the feeling when you have freedom. What is the feeling? And so we just keep uncovering that. So it really does turn into a therapy session kind of in the beginning. And then it's building out structure. And I've had wonderful business coaches over the years and life coaches. And so I've pulled from a lot of that training, but I am an autodidact and I read constantly. I take trainings constantly. I'm listening to podcasts every single day, probably 2 hours a day, while I do my hair, while I, take a bath. And learning never ends for me. And so I always tell my mentees that you have to be constantly in a place of learning, because this world is growing rapidly and changing. And so if you're not on top of things, that's why I always challenge people to ask more questions with their medical professionals, because they likely have not done continuing education units. They're not on top of the new research. And so you have to be that person. You have to advocate for yourself. And what does your business look like? And then we go back and redefine the goals over and over and over, so we know what is it going to take to get to that ultimate goal. Because if you don't get to the goal, are you going to be upset? Or what if we have micro goals that reach to that, so you can at least go, oh my gosh, I did this, this, and this. I set up my systems. I have protocols for my clients. I have a website now. What's the vibe you're putting out to the universe? And that changes all the time, right? I rebrand myself every year, every single year. It shifts and grows, because I'm changing and shifting and growing. You don't want to be settled into one thing. So, and it's boring anyways.
It's so funny because, it's such a privilege to have you on and to be able to share you with my audience because, I call it hobby collecting, but I do it professionally, right? Where you're going to, you know, basically pursue something, but at such a strategic level that you have to do it professionally because now you've incorporated it as a skill set and a tool set that it needs to become part of the repertoire. But you're also multifaceted across the board for so many things that bring you joy that may not necessarily be the business true revenue driver, but it brings you joy. So it's going to be important to incorporate into your life, and it will supplement some aspect of connecting with other humans in different capacity, connecting the communities that you serve. And so for me, I absolutely love that you have digested such a mass amount of information and systematized it in a way that it's repeatable, replicatable, scalable for not only for your clients that you're serving, but for the people that you're teaching how to serve those same clients, but also across the multiple businesses that you own. Right. So it's such a profound way to watch somebody embody things that truly bring them joy, but also challenging themselves, right? So it's literally, for me, I do the same thing every single year. I build out my strategic plan. It's a full PowerPoint presentation where I do want to actually incorporate the other two aspects because I do focus on business, process, and then personal, which incorporates, but now I need to silo out the spiritual side of it as well because that's, and the emotional. I haven't focused on that as its own pillar. So I think that would be.
I think it definitely needs its own pillar. I think spiritual can be attached to emotional because how you feel and believe about your existence in the world is emotional, obviously, but it's tied to your spirit, right? Like, and so I think I think everyone should have that pillar in their business. If not, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
Like, that is what makes humans so remarkable is that we are, first of all, like clearly divinely created, and we're different than every other species on the planet. And we can try to connect different species together, but like humans are uniquely diverse and different and powerful, and we are able, we're manifestors and generators and creators, and we have this like unique power, and that is driven emotionally, and we're deep feelers. There's not a lot of species that have the types of, I mean, if you look at like the neurobiology, like they don't even have the mechanisms to have the type of feeling and access points and to be creative in the ways that humans are. And so if you don't utilize that and think about that part, you're missing the core of who you are as a human being. Like, and I love exploring that with people because they're like, oh, I never thought about that, but
I feel like you hear that all day long. I feel like every single conversation, you're just like opening people's eyes to a new way of looking at the world. What a privilege. Like an amazing feeling that you get to go to sleep every single night knowing that you've impacted so many people on such an incredible level. I always like to ask about legacy. So, what is it that you are striving to leave as a legacy? So for me, legacy is so important. It's something that I say that I'm living my legacy right now because my parents did create such an incredible impact in the world with their consultancy.
Your parents are geniuses.
They really are. It's funny. I feel bad talking about them all the time, but there's just so much to tell. I call my dad the Dos Equis man because he's literally the most interesting man in the world. He is. I do a download with him at least once a week because I need to process what I've experienced, and I need a soundboard to make sure that I've interpreted what I've experienced in a way that actually makes sense. And so it's for me, I only go to my mom when it's like truly she wants to get back in the saddle. Right. She's the old dog by the fire. She's like, no, leave me out of it. I don't want to go back to work. Yeah. But if it's something that I really need to interpret correctly and make sure I don't mess up, I want to make sure that it's clear and concise and that I haven't necessarily, because it's all about the communication. I wanted to go back to something that you said before about language choice because it really truly is about shaping information correctly or appropriately so that you can resonate on the same level as somebody and communicate the intended message correctly. And if you're not receiving it the right way, then I'm not sending it the right way. So I need to,
Well, it's in the Bible. I mean, it says the power of the tongue, right? And there's a reason why it's in the Bible and it's in neuroscience. So we understand that neural pathways are built and then changed by the power of the tongue. So one of the easiest ways that you can help someone reprogram is to change the way that they say words, how sentence structure, and that will send a trigger. Now, over time, it's going to feel weird, right? Like you'll say a sentence and you're like, well, that sounds stupid. But over time, you're going to start utilizing sentence structure that is always going to have a positive reflection. Like I even catch myself going, ooh, power of the tongue, Marlies. I'm not even going to, and this is where I get like supernatural. I'm not even going to let the enemy know my fears. I'm not even going to speak into existence because I don't want anybody in on what scares me or makes me worried. I'm going to speak that it's already healed. I have the authority, you know what I mean? Like I'm speaking with power. I think one thing that we didn't get to was, and I know that your family has this and you have this as a person, but I think the core of success and excellence in life is someone who has understood resilience. And I think that there's really, I can't actually pull it any farther than resilience, because every single person that I've ever met who falls down and scrapes their legs, and our parents, like my dad has been through such a tough life and he has always found resilience. He always told me like the reason he didn't suffer the way that some of the other vets did after Vietnam is because he so early found and learned resilience. My mom came from war-torn Germany and they came over here with nothing. And they came from German aristocracy. So like had that not happened, I may have been like some super wealthy billionaire. But she learned resilience, and she not necessarily enacted resilience, but taught me resilience as well. And that was at a such early age. Like, hey, if you screw up, do better next time. And like, and there's some emotional ties to that as well. But I think that a core upbringing of understanding that is so key. And I think that it innates brilliance, right? Because someone can look at something and go, well, it's not good now, but it will be. And that's the inner being of going, I'm resilient. I can handle this. I've been through it and I can do it again. And if I can take my clients who have been traumatized to see how they have been resilient and give them their power back instead of being a victim. Like I suffered being a victim for so many years because I kept going to therapy and let's talk about the past. Let's talk about the past. And I'm thinking, I want to talk about the future. What do I need to do to be a more powerful human being? And to speak on legacy, the thing that I want to leave in this world is obviously passing this to my daughter. And she's graduating this year and she has the same life coach as me. So I hired a life coach 10 years ago and now she has that life coach, and she is she's a minister, but she's a writer, author, everything. And she's coaching Sadie, and Sadie goes, well, I didn't need a therapist. I needed Angela. And I have to speak about her right now because what she's doing right now is called the Kingdom Legacy Builders. And so she works with people who have been called on by God to do something very difficult, which is to open people's eyes, create resilience in the world, bring truth to where there's so many lies. And Sadie goes, I want to do that. I want to minister. And so what I realized very quickly in the past year was that I need to create something that I can scoop her in and literally be like my partner in business, because we'll be crossing lines, right? Because it'll be both a business and a spiritual driving force. I want to walk away going, I know that I put an impact on people's spiritual walks, on their emotional walks. I help them find the truth. And that leaving the earth, knowing that I changed enough and that it can be passed completely to Sadie, and that Sadie can build her team and I can help grow what she's doing and power her in the way that she wants to. That's how I want to leave this world. The fact that she wants to be a minister, that was like kind of out of left field. But she was like, I find more joy talking about Jesus than anything else. And I was like, really? You're 17. And she goes, Mom, when I tell people about the things, because she's witnessed demonic attacks, like, and her stories are wild. But the way that she speaks is so she just has, she like wears her heart on her sleeve, and you can tell that she's like only doing it for the good of the other person. Whereas I'm like probably more contrived than she is. I mean, I've been like trained, and so I'm like, to see her, it came out of nowhere too. Like, right, she wasn't raised in the church. She didn't grow up in youth group like I did. It was completely from God. It was a God experience. She brought it on her own. It's so cool, and that's what I'm now. I have to think about, like, when I create the next level of my global business, it's for her. It's for her and for all the future generations that are gonna be attached to her. And I hope that it is everything that God wants.
Must be so proud. I'm sitting here thinking, like, because I'm approaching the age of no return for babies, I'm just like, all right, maybe I just need to make one so that I can have that level
I mean,
of pride.
I highly suggest it.
I know. Well, we're trying, but I mean, just like so I admire the level of pride that you have in her, and just how inspired you are by her. So it's just, wow, what a privilege. So
I will say,
yeah,
one of the things that we talked about with a lot of my clients is when they come and say, like, my children are suffering. It's usually generational. So children are a mirror of us. And so when I was suffering, she was suffering. So when we had a lot of issues with her from the age of 4 to 7 was when I was suffering the most. And I was on so many medications, and I was, like, I mean, couldn't get out of bed most days. And so when I healed, she started healing. And so we look at the family unit, and I don't specialize in family unit work, but I do refer to another counselor who specializes in that. And all the time, we don't realize how much our kids pick up on everything that we do. And so if you want your kids to be successful, you have to be the inspiration.
yeah,
I mean, where else are they going to get it from?
yep. No, agreed.
So I put it on myself to say, okay, if I want my daughter to be successful, I have to be the example for her to be motivated to find her greatness. And so, and having a child does, create a different sense of reality check of, like, you are like, you made a human, and it's up to you to help them figure out the world. And so my husband and I, like, the other day, we were like high-fiving. We're like, we did it. we like successfully made a human, and we think that she'll be fine.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up the episode, is there anything that you would like to share that's coming up for events, or where people can find you, connect with you? Yeah. Where do we connect with you, Marlies?
Well, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I cannot handle more than 2 platforms. I will be doing some YouTube series, and we'll be putting out some custom breathworks for faith-based individuals, as well as some generic ones. So I'm working on that. With 9D, we've got a huge load of work to create programs for people that are seeking breath work for people that are Christian specifically. I've got my book that I'm finishing that will be called Necessary, and just really finding your purpose from all the pain. I think that people are going to read the book and go, I didn't see it that way. And it's going to be scripturally based, but I think that anyone can take something out of it. And it's going to be maybe a tough read in some spots, but kind of my legacy, my memoir, I guess 1/4 of my memoir written down. I will be building out a healthy living guide. I'll be posting that on my Instagram and Facebook. Obviously, my website is marliesledbetter.com. I do have discovery calls for free that people want to work with me, and 65% of my clients are virtual. So I do weekly coaching calls. We do functional health advisement. We have testing that people can be sent off for, and then we can also do the more transformative therapies over Zoom. Like the fact that technology has been able to get ramp up so quickly, like that. One of the good things that happened during COVID is everyone had to figure out how to use everything virtual. And so I've been almost able to like make my practice fully virtual. I'm hoping to have a speaking engagement calendar soon. And there's a lot of things happening. Just follow me, come along for the show. I do give some people insights into my personal life through stories on Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to watch me behind the scenes, I do have a subscriber list, and I just want everyone to be better and feel better and do better. And whatever that looks like for you, if I'm not the person, I'll help you find the person. That's the other thing, is I have a huge community of healers. I'm not afraid to say that word anymore, by the way. Like, we are powerful human beings. And so if I'm not the person, I can find the person for you. Just don't feel like you're going to give up in this world. Don't ever feel like you have to be a full victim of your pain. Whatever suffering you're going through, I can promise you there's another side to it that is maybe not healed, but a life that you didn't think you could possibly imagine. And I don't want anyone to ever define that things can't be fixed or things can't be better, because they can, always. And maybe we just haven't uncovered that stone, right? Like, we will go to the places that no one will possibly go. And I hope that you can find that trust in me. But if you're just here to learn how you can learn what I know, or what books to read, things like that, I have tons of education all over the place. And I hope to see you online soon.
I love it. Thank you so much for being a part of the Pursuit of Excellence. We will see you next time.